welcome to our first bi-weekly review session for CP104. I'm joined by Rob and Obi, and we're gonna be kicking it off shortly. So first, some things to know. Please sign in. We're gonna have the registration link to in the chat. Please sign in. That way, it's counted towards your LER and everything. And also, we're hiring. So LCS is hiring for graphic designers. We're hiring for AV visuals, and we're also hiring first-year reps in a couple other positions. So feel free to check out our link tree and then check out to join the team. So today's review session is going to be about string formatting and formatted output, which is talked about in your guys' courses. We just want to do some more review on that to make sure everybody gets the gist of it. And if you have any questions, feel free to type in the chat and we'll gladly be able to help you out.
Now, since the content is relatively simple, we're gonna try to breeze through parts of it, but explain it in a good enough way that it's easy to digest, especially if you haven't had experience with some of these different elements of Python and stuff like that. I'll also be showing a couple of interactive examples, pretty much coding off on the fly. So, and also you can also ask questions or ask us to slow down or do something different if you want to see different kind of output. All right, let's go to the next slide. Where's our stream? One sec. All right. Your lawyer experience record. Yep. Your lawyer experience record. Yep. Your lawyer experience record. Yep. I don't know why it's looping.
Rob, I think you're muted. Can you guys hear us in the
I'm
chat?
muted. Lol.
Muted streamer.
Yeah. The slide said it all, it's fine. Bad streamer.
Alright, thanks, Aaron Head.
So yeah, LCS is hiring. Dana, if you want to say anything about this?
Yeah, so like I said before, either feel free to go on our link tree or scan the QR code. We're hiring for a bunch of positions. Browse through the description of those positions, see which one you want to be, you want to apply for, and yeah, we'll be reaching out for interviews shortly.
All right. Upcoming events.
All right, so we have a bunch of upcoming events coming up as well. We have the first Learn a Tool series about developing web portfolio. So pretty much about that event, a lot of computer science students, they never really have had any experience with building web apps. So this will be a great event to kick off your portfolio, especially as a first year. Web development is very straightforward and pretty easy compared to like some of the other stuff. So I definitely recommend coming out to that. There's going to be a pre-registration link. It's either up right now or we're going to be sending it out shortly. So be on the lookout for that. It's on October the 8th. And then our second bi-weekly review. Sorry?
I also highly recommend that one.
Definitely. So our second CP104 review session is going to be on October 20th. So definitely if you enjoy this one, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns about how we can make these better, feel free to reach out to us. And by the second one, hopefully any issues that pop up during this one will be addressed in the next one.
All right, next slide.
Right. You want to cover the agenda, Obi? I just gotta do something real quick.
Yeah. So this is actually following extremely closely to the planned lab outline from Bohr that you guys should all have access to. If you don't, we can actually have someone paste the link in the chat. Just let us know. So we're gonna go over basic data types, console output, formatting that strings and things to display in a console, and then how to write clean code. And then also we have a small cheat sheet. It's not as fleshed out as we'd hoped it would be by today. We're all kind of busy, but I will also post the link for that in the chat in a minute. So can we go to the next slide?
All right. So do you want me? I can take it away.
All
So
right, you can take it away.
the basic data types in Python are you have your strings, your floats, your integers, and real numbers. So if you don't know what those things are, it's fine. Starting off at the top of the table, we're going to look at string. Well, what's a string? A string is pretty much another way of just saying like a word or like characters. And the way that they're defined in Python is usually with the double quotation mark, or you can use single quotes too, but those are usually only for single characters is best practice for those. So our examples on the side, we have, the word chair, and we have that wrapped in the quotation marks. That's telling, Python, the interpreters, saying, hey, this is a string type, and that'll be interpreted as follows. And it's also important to distinguish the difference between when you wrap a number in those quotation marks, it actually does not get processed like a normal number. It's considered a character, or a string, sorry. So let's say you had 34, right, and you wanted to do like plus one. Well, if you did plus one to a string, you're doing what would be like math to an object that it thinks is like a word. So it's like, oh, what's like hello plus one? It would, Python just dies. So moving on to float. Float is pretty much any like real number. So it's a number, with decimals attached to it. So, 14.42 is our example here, and 270.91. Now, these are important if you're doing, any sort of math where decimals are important, or you want to, do, let's say, calculations with currency, and you need to have, two decimal places, or three or four, or how many ever. So that's what float's useful for. It's pretty much your real number if you want to consider it like that. And the next data type is the int, which is short form for integer, which you could think of as like a flat number. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and also the negatives as well. So our example here is 34. Now, let's say you wanted to um, assign an integer, but you put in like 13.14, or you're getting a integer value from something, and it was trying to make an integer out of a number that wasn't one. What it does is something called truncation, which means everything after the decimal is just forgotten about. Just throw it out. So if I had 13.6, it wouldn't round up or round down or anything. It technically always rounds down by just truncating, just chop off the decimal and forget about it. It would just be 13, and that's all. So moving on to the last, real numbers. Um, is that Obi? You want to help me with this one, because I don't remember that being a type
All it
in
is,
Python.
yeah, it's not even its own type of thing, really. You don't need to think of it like that. It's actually just pretty much any numbers, honestly, except for like, what do you call them? Last year's calc, imaginary numbers. So,
Imaginary numbers.
which
All
you
right.
shouldn't encounter in many
Yeah.
places. So, maybe,
For the sake of CP104, like, don't worry about that. Your basics is string, float, and integer. That's what you need to know.
yeah.
Hey, sorry to interrupt, Rob. Are you able to turn up your mic a little bit? Some people in
Uh,
the chat are saying it's a little too quiet.
I can try. I don't know
And
if
then
I'm.
also, could you guys put
Is that better?
Discord on Do Not Disturb a little bit
I have
more?
it on Do Not Disturb. Obi-Wan, flip over to Do Not Disturb. Is mic better? Chat? Can I get poggers in the chat if the mic is better?
Pog in chat if
Pog in the chat if the mic is
Pog in
better.
chat.
Who's my? Wow. Who's mic?
All right,
Wow.
bet.
All right.
Thanks, Chad. Just,
All right.
keep doing what you guys are doing. When
Yeah.
if you guys hear any like low volume or anything, just let us know and we'll fix it.
All right, good.
All right. Let's move on here. All right. So quick practice.
Yeah.
Name the types. Chat. Come on, chat. I believe. Start from the top to the bottom. Make a little list. 3.333. Float string integer.
Cool.
Wow, we got some big brains. Big brains in chat. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Oh yeah, you guys are right on. Let's go.
Very cool.
All
All
right.
right, for this next one, for this next slide, we're gonna show you just a really quick live example. Um, Rob, so I'm gonna try and share my screen, and we'll see if that
Oh yeah.
somehow breaks this, but I don't think it will.
It's okay. I'll
All
recover
right,
it if you break it.
yeah. Okay, don't worry if you have Inception. Um, it's
Oh wait, how do
just
I
look at the other side.
hold on, I
All
need to
right,
figure
so
out. Oh, there we go. Hold on,
one
let me
sec.
just make this way bigger
All
here.
right, something we can do in Python. So Python's kind of a magical language. It does things that you'd hope or expect something to do. Say if you told a person, right?
Hey,
But,
Obi, can
but
you
by
hold on real quick? Sorry to interrupt. Give me
yeah,
Rob's just gonna
Yeah,
fix
I'm just
the
one
window.
sec, I'm flipping it over here.
you guys know.
And then Obi, can you mute LCS,
Yeah,
please?
let me try. Let me do that. Yeah, let me do that. All
So
right,
chat, this is our first time getting everything
Yeah.
settled.
Bear with
Promise for
us.
next time it'll be more smooth.
Yep.
small growing pains. We're good though. Okay, is it ready or
Is
what?
it, is there a way to make that bigger,
Yeah,
Rob?
Obi, actually, yeah, I could do this.
Yeah, let me make it big.
I got you. I got you.
That's impossibly huge
I
right
got
now.
you. I got you. It's all good.
Okay, so Python is pretty magical in that it'll let you take stuff like different types of variables and print them together or separately. Um, for instance, if you had any of the basic variables and you wanted to convert it to a string, Python can do that, like a number or just any kind of number or string pretty much. You can also take classes and print it out, but it's not going to print out with anything that recognizable. You'll just see like some memory code pretty much for where it's located in memory. But if the class has what you'll learn about in the future are magic functions that they're kind of built into Python. If it has one of those functions defined, then you can basically specify what it'll print out if you print it like a class, like an object from a class. That's a little more high level than where you're starting off at right now, but some of you might have had experience already. So let's just try this. So we take a string, say hello. Oh, let's just sit. Let's try monkey. Let's say another. We'll say number equals like 34, and we'll say print. We'll say print string first. All right. Let me just zoom out a little bit. So as expected, it's just printing monkey, right? Then if we go number right next to it, you can do comma. Python magically knows how to do this. If you experience any code from like something like C or something, you know that the printing or console output process is can be a real pain in the
Okay.
ass. So this is why I personally, this is one of my favorite parts about Python is that it's so easy to
Yeah.
show certain outputs. Like, um, we also took like floats like this. It should be perfect too.
Oh yeah.
And we'll get to string formatting actually about next slide, I think, or output formatting. Okay, so that should be good enough for now, honestly.
All
Let me
right.
share. Let me stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, I'm just gonna move you back into the corner on stream.
Yeah, sorry. Pause for 1 sec.
There you go.
All right, next slide, please.
Yeah, one sec.
Okay.
Fixing stream, you know? I have to like switch it over every time we do the interactive example. All right. Console output. I'll, so,
Okay.
okay, you
Yeah.
wanna grab it?
Do you want to take this, Rob?
I can take it. I'll take it. So the print statement does exactly what it says it does, right? It just prints the content that you give it and outputs it to the console, which essentially with what you saw Obi just do when he was running his code there, when it was showing what he was doing, it was, you know, that's what you would consider your console. It's where you see or where you can choose to see outputs, and to do this you use the print method. And what that looks like is, if you're looking at the example in red below, is you have a function named print, and then you have an open close bracket, and inside you could put variables. You can put, you could just type in a number or any data type, and it'll print your data type for you. So doing this is extremely, extremely useful for debugging. If you ever have a problem in any of your programs, or when things start getting complex and you want to know what a variable is at any certain point, just put a print statement on that exact line where you want to figure out, hey, what's the value of, x on this line in my loop? Well,
Yeah.
put a print right there, just put print x, and then it'll print you your x every time your loop runs, and this way you'll be able to keep track of it perfectly, and if there's any sort of, weirdness going on, you'll be able to narrow it down. And
Yeah, that's
yeah,
also why Python in some ways is one of the easier languages to debug. In some other ways it's not, but yeah.
yeah. So that's pretty much the basics of print. It'll print any data type. Next slide. So here's some things to note. So using print, just the function alone, displays a line break. So what this means is, at the end of every print statement, whether you put a new line character or not, and the new line character is just like the /n, it'll make a new line. So let's say you just type hello, and you print hello world. The next time you print something, you'll see it'll appear the line below, and that's because every print statement has a new line character, which is a special character that's used to say, hey, put the next output on the next line below in the console, and that's /n. And the f literal value, you want to cover that?
So
F literal.
so F literal is one way to format output to the console. It doesn't. I don't remember if it formats to standard output, which I'll talk about in a second.
Okay.
But we were actually going to focus more on using the format method in this example. But essentially, the format or the F literal, I guess, way of writing things works very similarly in that you can basically insert certain variables or values into certain spots of a string, and then also modify its behavior. So, like the spacing around it, for decimals and integers, how many points afterwards. Um, yeah, and it'll push and move other things around it how you'd expect or want without having to type like a bunch of spaces, for instance. But let's go on to the next slide.
All right. All right. Another interactive example.
Okay, so
Oh no, I need to do the
let's
string.
actually skip this because I'm going to show a proper example later on.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we'll skip this one. All right. Output formatting. So in the
I
general,
could.
yeah, you want to? Okay. Go
Yeah.
off.
All right, so basically, we okay, so at the top of this, we should have written like the format, an example of the format method. It's just something else we weren't able to fix in time. But the bottom line is that with the format method, you have a function, or it's a function that if you run it at the end of sorry, if you take a string and then run this function on it, it'll process it and take whatever values are in the parameters for it and insert it. Um, Let me show you an example while I talk about this real quick.
Oh,
Let
you're
me share
making it
my screen.
difficult for me now, eh?
You
It's
got
okay.
this?
It's good. It's good. It's good.
Okay. Or you could show them an example.
No, it's fine. I got you already pulled up here. We got
Okay,
we
cool.
got big
All right,
Obi's
bet.
taking over the stream.
All right.
This working.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Are we live? Cool.
Yes, we are.
All right. So say we take. Okay, so this is one example of inserting a variable into a string for formatting the output. So if I print this, Sorry, let me just change the play a little bit. Okay, let me run this real quick. Okay, so this example pretty much uses all the different parts that you could do to modify a string. You don't have to actually use a variable. If you put if you depending on the order that you put strings that you want formatted into the format method, it'll automatically insert them based off like order. And if you give one too many or one too little, it'll let you know. It'll throw a complaint. So here we basically have. Let me just erase this so we have it on hand so we can do a basic example. Comment that out. Okay, so we're gonna take this and just do so like so. So I'm gonna take literally just an empty pair of brackets, click dot format, and then I could literally just put in hello right here like this, and then we get exactly the output we were hoping for. So if I took um, say what's and up right here, and then separated these and just put another curly brace right here, we'll get each of those words placed into the right spot. So say I want to take hello and push it, or make sure everything next to it is pushed 6 spaces to the left. That's where I can use formatting expressions. They're in a cheat sheet, the cheat sheet we mentioned at the top of the chat. So I could take this and say I wanted to do it 6 spaces, right, to the right. Or rather, I think it's, let me just see, I'll test it. This is going to give us the same example, the same result as this. I'm just going to run this real quick. Yeah, so that basically pushes everything to the right
Yeah.
of hello, right?
There's a bunch of different
Um,
little, you know,
yeah,
little symbols you could use to do a lot of different things.
yeah. So if I take also here, I just do hello right here instead of a plain string, I could just insert that here and it'll still work. And then as for digits and numbers, let's say 45, right? You can basically do this. I could say give it 0.2 decimal places, so 2 zeros after that, and we should be able to see that cook up right
Yeah.
in a sec. I have to put D, I forgot. I'm gonna skip past this section in a sec because I've already explained most of it, but this is just cutting out of my window right now. Okay,
Yeah.
I forgot it doesn't allow
Does anyone have any
precision, but
questions in chat? I think this is a
yeah,
good
yeah.
point to ask some questions. If anyone's confused about, the symbols or anything like that, or, the formatting or how Obi's doing it here, does anyone have any
I'm
questions?
explaining it. I'm probably going over some parts a little too
Yeah.
quick.
I've got chat pulled up, don't worry about it, I'll read it out.
Okay, cool.
I'll just give it like another maybe like 30 seconds stream delay.
Yo, by the way, Rob, is my screen kind of delayed or no?
No, you're good. To me,
Okay,
you're good
cool.
because you're going through Discord, so it's
On my end, it looks like yeah.
it should be good.
Okay.
Like,
All right, if no one has any
yeah.
questions, let's just do one. Um, that is good enough for this slide, to be honest. So let's
All
skip
right.
to next one.
Let me
I'm gonna
just
stop sharing for a sec.
transition back here to this. Move on to the next slide.
So we kind of I showed you 2 examples of using
All
the
right.
alignment.
Mhm.
You can push it either left or right, or keep it in the center. And you don't if you don't want to do any alignment, you don't even actually need to put none. You just don't put anything.
Yeah. So
All right,
yeah,
next slide.
these will be useful. I'm just gonna add something here. These will be useful
Yeah,
because
go
in
ahead.
CP104, there is a lot of print formatting. So like he'll like D Brown or I don't know whoever you guys have as a prof, they'll make you output like money or like a table, let's say, of like a receipt or something, and they'll want you to have all the numbers or like the price of everything aligned in a certain way, and these are your friend. Like these symbols are what you want to be using to do that in
Yeah,
conjunction with like the other symbols and formatting, which we have in a cheat sheet.
Yep. Also, we want to save some time at the end. So if you guys have questions, we can't exactly answer your assignment questions, but we can
Yeah.
help you or guide you to the answer. Um, if you have questions, you can ask them in the chat or like I don't know if they can speak on this, but
No, just
it's
chat. Drop
possible.
them in chat.
Okay, next time we might do a different type of meeting format, but this is doing all right for now.
Yeah. All right.
All right, can we go to the next slide?
All right. Integer formatting.
Yep. So skip it past this. We're not going to cover this for today.
Decimal formatting.
This is basically, it works very similar to the format function. They're interchangeable almost.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this as well. This works exactly the same way. This is just defining the type. Oops, I went on too fast there. It's just defining when you do the spacing and whatnot, you have to define like the type that you're actually using, if I'm not mistaken, OB.
Yeah, you do. You have to define the type here as like a long string, as opposed to using just one of the specifiers in the format method, which you just use D for decimal and integers, and S for string, as far as I remember.
Yeah. Yeah, it's S for
Might be
string.
messed up on the decimal and
Yeah,
integer part,
there's
but
different identifiers. Do we have them in the cheat sheet?
yeah. So the cheat sheet is
Yeah.
linked at the top of the chat.
All right. Yeah. So there's a bunch of different identifiers for there, like, Google's your friend if you want to pull up, exactly what type is what. But yeah, this is like the general theory behind it.
Yeah.
So mixed
Okay.
formatting.
Oh, let's go to mixed formatting. This is using the examples that, or the format method, similar to exactly what I just did. Something else is I think this is from Python 2. You didn't need to put parentheses around um, the the placeholders, but I think now you need to on Python 3 as of the last couple of years. But yeah. This is a good example just to refer back to. Honestly, if you need help on your assignments or anything, like come back here, or go through the slides and you can quickly find out how to do the formatting that you are supposed to for your assignments. Because I know it can be pretty tricky and annoying at first, because it was for me.
Yeah. All right. Interactive example. We kind of just.
Yeah, we kind of low-key did it, but I have a different,
You have a different one?
uh, actually, give me 1 second. 1 sec. Oh yeah, I didn't. So we actually, the reason why we're kind of messed up is just because part of our presentation was on a different version that we weren't able to recover. But something I wanted to go over were some simple string methods that are built into Python, and you'll probably use quite a lot, and you'll find them really helpful, even in coding um, on coding questions in interviews. So I'm going to share my screen real quick and show you these examples in action real quick. All right, so we got here these different functions, all right? I'm gonna comment out these so we can see each work on its own. If I run this, what I get is the original string I had entered. My bad.
Oops.
I get the original string, but everything just lowercase. Simple as that. String upper is the exact same. Works the exact same way. If I do, if I use the count method, I can count for how many times a certain substring is encountered in that string. So for here, it sees the substring mon 2 times. Let me actually check. I think it's case sensitive. So if I do say a capital N right there, it will find only one. Yeah. So let's comment that out. Is numeric will tell me if the entire thing is numeric, and it should be false. And same will go for is alpha because it checks is everything a
Right.
string
And
or
alpha being alphanumeric.
alphanumeric.
Yeah.
And then if we comment those out, something that right here, now this starts getting into lists, which can be really, 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 really clutch on certain assignments when you need to parse strings. So you can split on a certain character you encounter. It makes it extremely fast too.
I don't know if that's too important yet, if they've done lists yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you guys have done that, but I think I might have it. Hold up, I don't know why it's not in the screen, but one sec. I swear, if I lost all that, I might have lost part of it. Okay, I might have lost it. But anyway, the last two were more about like splitting by string, and I think there was a replace function I had in there, might have had in there.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it says. It's easy to Google. Yeah, you should be fine with that. Now, let's go back to the slideshow.
Alright, swing back. I just gotta do stream magic, transition back over. Alright. Alright, writing code, correct form. So in Python, you want to define your function using the keyword def, as in DEF, and then you want to use parentheses to encapsulate any parameters or arguments. You could use those kind of interchangeably here to define any sort of variables you want to be using in your function that you want to be able to pass into it. So by that I mean, like, if when you go to run your function from the main code, you want to be able to, put in some variables that you're using in that main code to do something to them, or, do whatever your function wants to do using those variables. So it's kind of like a way of importing data into like the function, which is kind of separated from your main code. And I just am noticing here, I don't know who made the slides, but it's def, and you need to have an actual name to the function. Obi, I don't know if you see that. Yeah, so
I
this
see it.
whoever did the slides,
It's supposed to be def,
and then the
at least
name.
it's in the line, and then name, and then the right after is a parentheses, and it also needs a colon at the end, which honestly we could quickly edit it, but
We
it
could.
will.
I mean,
So
if
just
we have
throw
an
in an
interactive,
example.
yeah, if we have this example, we'll go through the example. Anyways, the
Yeah,
slides kind of bad here. So yeah, so you want to create also a good practice here is, with your comments, you want to create some documentation of what type of variables you're expecting, and what they're supposed to represent. So that's, as like, in this case here, if we're looking at the slide, what's variable one, what's variable two? Like, what do you want it to be? Is it someone's first name? Is it someone's last name? Or is it, is it the day? Or is it, some random number? Anyways, you want to be able to say, okay, parameter one is this, parameter two is that. And the order in which you put parameters into the definition of the function does matter. Because when you go to type in the function to use it in your code, the order in which present the variables to the function. So um, let's say we're passing something in for variable one spot. In this case, we want to pass something like one into variable one and two into variable two. Well, when I go to say, let's say this function is called, add. Um, Again, it should say def and then at space and then add and then these parentheses here. So, when I go to call it, I would do add and then bracket. I would put, 1 comma 2, and then when that gets passed to the function here, when the function runs, it's going to say, okay, 1 is in this spot, 2 is in this spot, and then now I'm able to use that in my chunk of code that the function has. We'll show you in the example.
yeah. All right. Let me actually pull up the screen to share this in a sec. Something else. So I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna show you each possibility for passing in parameters into the function definition, and also the I guess so there's different ways to create variable names. standards that are used in different languages just because it's just a common thing. In Python, typically, you want to use, I can't remember what it's called right off the top of my head, but you use underscores between the words, and everything's lowercase. Unless, say, you're talking about an object, you might do uppercase on a couple of them. I'll show you in a sec. So,
Just some naming conventions.
yeah.
Yeah. Python won't actually care what you use, but you know, for people reading your code, it's a lot easier to understand what they're looking at.
Yeah. All right, I'm sharing my screen now.
Okay. One
Should be
second.
good.
Just give me a second to transition here.
Cool.
Let me just blow this up real quick. Should be good to go.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna show you something else that we already covered, which is that you can concatenate or add strings with numbers, and it just knows how to convert the number into a string and then, matches it together. So we'll say bananas right here. How do you spell bananas? B-A-N-A. Okay.
It's okay, we're computer
So
science students.
this is called let me actually check it up. No, I'm not gonna look it up. Someone in the chat can post it. But basically, you try to come up with concise and simple variable names because it becomes really, really confusing if you don't use them properly, especially if you're handing off code to someone else. So right here, I have message. Hi, I have bananas. We have a number of bananas. We got 22. I'm gonna run the function, count bananas. I can just copy this pretty much. It'll run because I'm already passing in message from here into here, and then num bananas to the other parameter spot. And what that should do is, what did we do wrong? Oh yeah, something I messed up. There's some part of this I know that for a fact it'll work, but I messed up though.
Are you trying to cast it to a string or?
I just did that right now because
Okay.
low key messing up my example. So.
It's all good.
All right, so basically, is this not even loading? Oh my. We need to not use this.
I just found it like quickly. I don't know.
Okay, I'm gonna do this. Def x. We're gonna just define a random function. We'll say message, and then we'll say num bananas. But here we're gonna actually say it's equal to some other variable that we're gonna pass in. So num. I'm so dumb. Okay, so we'll say number.
I think
we'll say number is equal to num bananas, right? So if you basically assign a variable in the parameter definition, the order at that point doesn't matter, or there's some variation of that. I can't fully remember, but it's definitely
really matter.
Yeah, you're not gonna end up using it that often. So I'll just say num bananas equals 22, and then we'll say print message, and then we'll say num bananas right here. All right, let's say print. We'll run the function. Literally, just call it. And honestly, I'll just do this one example. Say number is equal to this. So this is how it works. There we go.
There you
That's
go.
That's what I was saying. So you can actually bypass some of the parameter ordering by assigning a variable to one of the parameters you've already defined. I hope that makes sense. Kind of botched the whole example, to be honest, but that's essentially how it works. And then let's see.
Someone in chat saying to use Replit as a online IDE.
Yes, I should have remembered. So good.
Thank you, chat. Thank you, chat.
Because I use that. I used to use that all the time. We'll do it next time, though. Thank you, whoever contributed. Okay. That should be enough for that slide.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we could swap back over here. Transition. All right. Oh yeah. So here's an example here that we had. So when that's one threw in. So that's just going through again. You have your definition. That tells you, hey, I'm defining a function, and then what do I want this function to be named? Well, here this one's name's calculate. Calc underscore distance. So calculate distance, and we need to take in two parameters here. We have our speed parameter and our time parameter. Now remember that the order of these do matter, but when you're calling the function. So when we're using this function in our main code, if I put the time number, let's say if I have like, 20 seconds or something, and I have a speed of like 140, and I put my time in the speed in the time, when I call this, well, when I come here, it's going to think speed is 20 and time is 140 when I go to call these. So the order does matter when you're using the function. And then again, it's good practice to, comment what each variable is and the type that you're expecting and the return of what you want to, what if your function does output something, what it's going to output and the type that it's going to use. If you want to add
Can I
anything,
make a
Obi?
comment?
Yeah.
That line you see right there is actually from one of the assignments I think you guys will be having at some point, or it's an old assignment. Basically, the functions that Doc David Brown or some other prof might give you, they'll try to put a function explanation, or I can't remember what it's called. Just definition is
Yeah.
another way to just describe it. So um, if you're handing out the code in, say, a real world environment, someone will easily be able to tell how it works by knowing the different variable names and where they're being used. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this will probably be given to you, and you'll be expected to interpret this in order to create the function, if I remember correctly. So you'll have most likely, as far as CP104, this will be given to you. This actually looks like it's from CP104 or something like that, like you said. And you'll be able to, understand what the function does and what you need to use in order to complete it just from this. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So they give you the function description and you have to make it. Yeah. So it'll be exactly in this format. I think this is taken from, another year assignment, and you'll have to pretty much code the rest. So pretty much this part right here. Yeah.
All right.
Another interactive example. I can't stop with these.
Honestly,
They're good.
yeah, we're good for that one.
All right, you want to move on past it?
Yeah, let's go right past that one.
Yeah. All right, so some real world problems. Oh shit. Whoops.
We didn't delete this slide.
Okay.
I'm gonna just hop off for 4 seconds. Ready?
The slide's empty, just move on.
Yeah, I don't know what Obi was doing.
Okay, I'm back. So let's see.
You want to go back to it or what?
No.
Okay.
We're good now. So that is so
That's
now
it.
that concludes the main presentation. Next time we will definitely come more prepared because we have actual form, like a structure that we follow for presentations, and we basically try to show and talk about examples that are relevant to you and not simple, trivial ones that you see a lot of different places. We're hoping to try and get some examples of actually using these in certain scenarios. I was actually going to show an example from a project I've been working on or have been that kind of actually shows a lot of this stuff in action. So that wraps it up. But I want to thank you all for joining in. And now we're opening up. So if you want to ask questions, anything in the chat at all.
Yeah, fire away, chat.
This is exciting.
Okay, I'm gonna actually also take this chance to remind you guys who are here that we are actually launching a new program under the LCS banner. It's called LCS Pods. Essentially, it's if you've ever heard of an incubator internship, It's similar to it in that it's um, actually I wouldn't call it that actually. It's essentially an open source project based initiative where we are assembling different teams to work on real world platforms. So our goal with the program is to give students, especially people that haven't had proper real world experience, or are trying to beef up their not just
Resume.
resumes, but their
GitHubs.
just living experience in general, the opportunity to actually work on an open source project that you can put on your resume and have a job title associated with it. It's something that is essentially, um, in a way, we're hoping for it to be like a startup incubator. So whatever idea or thing you work on, we hope that you liked or you're as a team you enjoyed building it so much that you want to continue it after, or you're extremely happy or very happy with the final product, something you're proud to show off. It's basically going to be structured so you have about 6 members on a team, and we have our team leads leading it. I'll be also participating in the teams as the program manager. If I didn't mention it, I'm the vice president of tech for LCS.
Yeah, I don't think we
So
introduced ourselves.
we didn't.
I don't think we did. So,
My name's Obi. My name's Obi Hadrika. I'm the vice president of development and tech for LCS. And
yeah.
right
And I'm
here,
Robert
I'll let you
Mazza,
introduce
and I'm one of the development leads. I'm actually under Obi. He's the VP, and I'd be one of the people that would be running one of these pods that Obi was talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm a third
Uh,
year computer science student. I should probably mention that. I mean, we both are.
Important to note. Now, key details about this. We'll be opening up applications for it just because we want to get an idea of students that will try to put in the work to help their team get it done by the end of the term. And our students or developers that if they don't know how to solve a problem, they will go and figure it out. You basically have drive. We're just looking hopefully for students that it would benefit the most. We're also going to be launching on October 18th. We had to postpone it because of other events and other things that got in the way of October 4th. Um, yeah, so it's essentially a term-long sprint that has a timeline and there's a project package for each group.
Yeah. And
That's essentially it in a nutshell. Um, a little bit wordy, but the welcome doc and other links we have for it explain it pretty well.
yeah, it's a good opportunity for sure. So we got some questions in chat. Um, Not really a question about the content,
Yeah.
but what do you look for in a first year rep? So we can
Danner,
both
can
kind
you
of
hop?
answer to that.
Yeah, I can go for that. So yeah, just as who mentioned that? Amanda, thank you for the great question. So as she mentions, we're hiring for a first year representative. We're also hiring for graphic designers and some other positions, so feel free to check out our link tree. But for to address our actual questions, what do we look for in a first year rep? First off, we want someone who's very outspoken, someone who's comfortable with getting in front of a large group of people and willing to spread our propaganda pretty much.
Oh
So,
my
you
god.
know, pretty much what will be going on is, after a class or before a class, you'll speak with the professor, be like, hey, listen, do you mind giving me a few minutes to talk about this event that's coming up, or endorsing dev pods or something of the sort? Pretty much spreading the word of LCS and making sure as many students are aware of it as possible, talking with friends, making sure they're a part of LCS, all that kind of fun stuff. So if you are an outgoing person, if you like to sell, if you know what I mean, anything of the sorts, feel free to sign up for the first year rep position.
Yeah, and
And also just to let you guys know, if that doesn't really describe you, that's all good. We have multiple other positions that we're still hiring for, like a graphic designer. Pretty much, we want to see your previous work, and if we feel that, but it's a mutual benefit, then we'll bring you on.
If we have any graphic designers in the chat, please apply
in
to pods.
dire need.
Dire
Each,
need, yeah.
not dire need, but definitely dire need. Just
Severe
because
needs, severe
every
needs.
team, every team, even if you have a creative mindset or background, we it would be very helpful for a team to have graphic designers to help design the front end and take some of that work off of the rest of the team. But everybody is going to work together, and everybody's inputs will matter equally. Um, Another thing to note is that the final projects are owned by you and your team. Um, so yeah,
Yeah. So where can they find applications when they happen, Dana?
so
Or
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
both,
there,
So,
both.
mods, could we get the links in the chat for our link tree? We also have the link tree. Make sure, please, guys, if you haven't signed up already, make sure to sign up with the registration link. We're gonna send it in the chat. It contributes to your LER. It helps us make sure, like, analyzing our numbers and stuff. So please, if you're a Laurier student, definitely fill in the registration sheet, and then also check out the graphic designer posts. We stay in touch with our Discord because that's one of our
Yep.
main forms of communication. Make sure to also follow us on Instagram. I know a lot of people like to mute the Discord,
Yep.
the main Discord, so make sure you follow us on our IG. That's where all the important stuff happens.
Yep. And
Um, what else?
those posts and those applications are available right now to be filled, correct?
Yep,
Yep.
yep.
So if you guys are
They're open right now,
interested,
and then we're gonna be.
yeah, so if you guys are interested, there should be links being dropped in the chat by mods. If not, you can check out the Instagram or the Discord, and you'll be able to find those there if you're looking for them. And we've got another question. Could you join if you have a little programming experience? This
yes,
is probably for the pods. Yeah.
yes, we're definitely like this is so in each team we're trying to have a balance of um, fresh people to CS as well as some people that have dipped their toes in
Yeah.
at least a little bit. So yes, we definitely are taking applications and want to help people that have little programming experience, but will put in the work to learn more and get the job done. So
Yeah. Don't let that hold you
basically,
back. Pretty much.
basically being a strong team player.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
As Obi mentioned before, all we're looking for is people that have drive, that actually show initiative, that they want to learn new tools that aren't taught in school. It's a very fun time. You get to meet other like-minded individuals that are in the same boat as you. That's the thing, that we're trying to push home here is everyone is in the same boat as you. Not many people in the dev pods are gonna have that much experience, but they all want to contribute and they all want to learn more. So definitely, if that sounds like you, feel free to join on the team.
yeah,
Yeah.
we welcome you with big open arms. And even if you're not a part of the program, we have LCS pods, the other side offering, which is Little Sister pods, which are these bi-weekly guided open source projects that they have an end goal in mind, and then we also have a dev that will be there to guide you to get to that end goal. But you'll be doing kind of your own work to try and get to close to where uh, we've already kind of built out an application. That's what we're hoping for you to get to.
Yeah. Any
Of
other
the kind of
questions? Oh, sorry, Obi, you
that
want to
way.
continue?
But that was good enough. So,
Yeah.
any questions?
What's the last slide? Oh. Just curiosity. Any other questions in chat?
We'll give it a couple more minutes. If not, we'll sign off.
Yeah, well, we got 3 more minutes here till 8 o'clock. So when's the next review session?
Good question. I think
So
it's on the 20th. Let me pull
they're
it up real quick.
bi-weekly. So it would be 2 weeks from today. I don't know if the time is confirmed yet, but as far as the day, expect one every other week. So if there's one this week, expect one in 2 weeks. I think.
Mhm.
I don't know. Correct
So,
me if I'm
so
wrong.
this one is a little bit of a weird one, because of reading week. So in 2 weeks, it's actually supposed to be October 13th, but because it's reading week,
Oh shit.
we're not going to be hosting it. So the next biweekly review session will be on the 20th. That's for our schedule.
Okay. So the 20th.
Actually, when is your guys' midterm? 104 midterm.
Yeah. I forgot.
We might be able to reschedule it for some last minute midterm prep. Actually, this is a good segue for our sponsor LCS. So we have other events coming up. We have our Learn a Tool series coming up on October 8th as well. It's going to be for web development, which is, as we mentioned before, it's an amazing opportunity to get your feet wet into web development. If you'll definitely come out to that. And then also our biweekly review sessions. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, I don't. Do we have any people in 104 in the chat that could tell us when your midterm is? Maybe we could help you out. Unless you don't want the
Yeah,
help,
because
then no.
as of now, I'm pretty sure our next biweekly review session is going to be after your guys' midterm.
Midterm.
Obviously, that won't be helpful for studying. So,
Hey, by the way,
uh,
this is what you need to know on your midterm, just in case you
yeah,
didn't.
Okay.
just in case you didn't catch the drift.
October 30th.
October 30th. Okay, so
Yeah.
we're good. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So it
All right,
works.
we're
But yeah,
cool.
then the next biweekly review session is going to be on October 20th. Definitely go onto our Instagram. That way you guys are aware about the next upcoming ones.
Yep.
And also all our other events and our hiring. Guys, there's so much exciting things. Just follow us on our social media. I can't keep repeating this. I'm sorry.
Oh,
And also, when's the web dev
yeah.
thing? So that one's going to be on October the 8th.
October 8th. Yep.
I shouldn't even say. I should just say follow us on our socials to
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Just
trying to get my feet wet.
with the
Hey,
web dev. That's with web dev, I guess.
it's a fun
It's
time.
good to know.
Yeah.
It's very good to know.
Yeah.
As far as web dev, what are we gonna be covering? A sneak peek.
I think Usher's gonna be doing it. Um, yeah, I think he's in charge of the
So
content.
he's
Don't
just
worry about what we're
okay.
doing.
I
Just
sneak
get.
peek.
I'm not. I'm talking about these guys, the general members. Please, just come. It doesn't hurt to come.
It
Yeah,
Get our viewers up. Get our numbers up.
for anybody who doesn't remember or didn't hear, Nausher is the other co-president of
Yeah.
LCS.
If you have a friend in
Real
order
quick,
to.
can we get some responses in the chat on you guys' experience levels? Like, just so
Yeah,
we get a
good
sense
point.
of what we're dealing with.
So like I don't know, maybe he's
Did
like
you take high school courses maybe,
yeah.
or have you like tried coding on on your own time, like Codecademy? I used to do that.
Three years in Java, first time doing
Solid.
Python. Oh, nice.
Solid.
That's solid.
I wish I learned Java first. It would have been way easier to branch out to C++ and all that.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
He's
Instead of
right.
learning Python first, yeah. So
I
because
mean, I
learned
learned Python
and then
first. I
moved
guess I
to-
wouldn't know. Python
Yeah.
game. Not Python. Sorry, fuck. Bruh. I learned Java
Java?
first.
Nice to see.
I did programming
Okay.
in high school, did some projects. Cool.
You know, that's actually kind of like me. So
Same.
I'll tell you a little bit about my background. So I so I took CS classes in high school. Originally, I actually I had my mindset on going into medicine. That actually changed last minute for me when I accepted at Laurier. But I actually hated Python after my first proper Python course at my high school. That was a combination of my professor and being so fresh to the language or to coding like that, especially with Python. Um, but it took doing work on my own as well as a boot camp I went to that kind of showed me, opened my eyes and showed me how actually easy in certain cases it can be and what a life in CS could look like. So that's why I kind of try to preach to people to get projects under your belt.
Yep.
Something that is very important to know is that hiring managers, they look for people that have projects that show that they tried to solve a problem or create some new way to do things. Basically trying to contribute to
Improve,
the
yeah.
tech society or a business or some cause. Those are the ones they'll scan over. If they see that if it catches their eye, they're going to be at least 5 times more likely to read through your whole resume and probably actually reach out to you. that's how I got my first programming job. I actually got my first pro. I got the connection to go to my first internship through one of the LCS events last year. It was the Meet the Recruiters event. I basically went and asked. I asked a ton of good questions, and then I actually contacted each of the people after, and then that's how I got in touch. I recommend that to every one of you because even if you see one person doing it, it doesn't mean that that's going to be the only person that they're going to like try to reach out to after. So, just my tips for success going forward
Yeah.
this year and throughout the rest of college.
Yep. And like as far as like if you're just new, like if you're in first year right now, like to give the perspective, like it's the way the courses are designed are for you to have zero programming experience, right? Like 104
Eventually.
104 is is meant for you to go into it never touching a line in an IDE in your life. Like it's starting
Yeah.
ground zero. Like as you saw, like if you do have experience, then you'd be able to look at the presentation we just did and been like, oh, like that's so easy. But if you don't, then maybe it's a little bit difficult. But these are the foundations of programming, right? Even what you're learning in CP104 are like the basics of many other languages, right? Creating a function, printing to the console. Like these are things that are not just proprietary. They might look a little different in in other languages, but knowing the way to do things and like what you should kind of be using in certain areas is the main thing about programming. It's not so much about, typing print and then knowing when to put the parentheses. It's about, what does print do is more of the important part.
So yeah, just to echo what Rob is saying. So this CP104 and some of the earlier, the more entry level CP courses, all they teach you pretty much is theory. And I say that because even though you do some of the examples or the work in the assignments, they're very limited use case scenarios and stuff that you're not going to do that often, or yeah, pretty much. So the fastest and best way to absorb things is by doing them in the real world or doing some project. Because if you try some new technology or something and try to work at it, it's everything that you kind of come across, you absorb it because your brain is like actively trying to build and it keeps trying to go back in memory and remember what you
Yeah.
have already learned. Um,
Well,
that's that's something very valuable.
yeah, like, it's especially like when you're trying to build something and whatnot. Like, let's say, you come out and you apply to the pods and, you're on one of the pod teams. Hint, hint, do that. Um, and you keep trying to work with something and, it's not working, it's not working, it's not working. You're spending like 2 hours trying to fix this one issue. As soon as you figure it out, you're not going to forget what caused that issue and what you were doing. That's going to stick in your head. And that's the part about actually doing projects that's so valuable about like learning programming is because like you'll get frustrated, but the frustration, as soon as you solve it, that frustration turns into, like a spot in your memory where like you now know how to do that because of that frustration and because of how many times you tried.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of these um, things that you're gonna learn first year are stuff that you can easily Google if you don't remember it. For instance, all this string formatting stuff. I only remember like using D and some other um, D, S, and then maybe the arrows in the parentheses. But for the rest of there's other ways to format. I just refer to cheat sheets because those are extremely helpful. Something that we didn't get to flesh out properly, but we still have a cheat sheet. It's good enough for
Yeah.
this tutorial.
Yeah. If you can't remember syntax also of like a language, it's totally fine. Like that's what documentation is for. Like
Yeah,
you can't remember every single function of every single library or like there's so many things to remember that it's like almost humanly impossible. So like I wouldn't if you guys have trouble with like, oh, what's the formatting for like, this function or something like it's fine. Like, don't knock yourself for it.
All right. I think
Yeah.
That's a good place to sign off. Any
Yeah.
last questions before we go?
Yeah, we'll give it like 30 seconds maybe to a minute.
And just to let you guys know again, make sure you sign up if you are a Laurier student and you haven't already. It goes towards your LER. You have to attend 2 events for you to be considered a general member. It helps out with, you know, if you're trying to get into co-op and saying, you know, you're involved in extracurriculars, all that kind of stuff. And just to keep track during your Laurier experience. All right, I think we're good to go. So yeah, thank you guys so much for coming out. Make sure you follow us on all our social medias. We spam the link in the chat, so just definitely click on one of those to get our link tree. It's been amazing as always. Thank you guys so much for coming out. I've been Donner, my 2 lovely developers, Rob and Obi. Thank you guys so much for creating an amazing slideshow. I hope to the general members it's actually been helpful. Remember, if you think there was another way to make this better, feel free to DM us and give us the feedback. We're always open to it. And yeah, take it easy, guys.
Thanks, guys.